preparing to live stream the meeting. It's preparing. It's the red line going across the thing. Done. And now it says
I think we're ready to go.
it's just rolling around on my end, but okay.
Yeah, on our end it says live.
There
So
you go.
I'm gonna go ahead and get
Okay.
started.
Red line going across the thing.
All right.
Now it says
I think we're ready to go. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, Trish, okay? All right. I want to thank everyone for joining us at our ADOS Atlanta General Meeting. We now have these twice a month. We no longer have them every Sunday. Now it's only the second and the fourth Sundays of the month at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So I just want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day and joining us. We're trying to grow. We're trying to grow the movement, especially on a local level, so we can get a groundswell. We just ask everyone to continue to come back to the meetings and continue to participate. We definitely got work for you to do. Um, so just thank you for showing up, and thank you for all the people. We had a few first timers on here too. So thank you all for showing up. And real quick, I do want to just quickly go over our mission and vision statement for those who are here for the first time can know what ADOS Atlanta is all about. Our mission statement is: given the many serious concerns expressed by the ADOS movement, especially the growing lineage wealth gap and the lack of advocacy on behalf of American descendants of slavery, we choose to work together as a group on an ongoing basis. One, to be a Metro Atlanta advocacy group seeking a Black agenda as per ADOS101.com. Two, to serve as an educational grassroots organization. And three, to work towards obtaining reparations for ADOS. And that is our mission statement. And we also have a vision statement. Our vision statement is to be a premier political advocacy group for the Southeast, to develop a leadership pipeline and to be an anchor for decentralized regional activity, to focus on political education and groom our ranks to be politicians, to lobby existing politicians and government agencies on behalf of ADOS. And that is ADOS Atlanta's mission statement and vision statement.
Joanna's on the way.
All right, great. Anybody have any questions about the mission or the vision statement? If not, we can go ahead and get started with our presentation here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna start out by introducing who and what ADOS is, and it's gonna take about maybe 10 minutes. It's not gonna be very long presentation, probably 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes at the most. Let our guests know who we are. And then after that, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves, what they are, what they're up to. And then after that, we're going to ask them some questions. All right, so give me a second and let me pull up, share my screen. All right. All right. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
All right. All right, let's go ahead and get started. ADOS stands for American Descendants of Slavery. And we want to emphasize slavery and not slaves. Slavery is for the institution of slavery. A lot of people get it wrong and say descendants of slaves, but no, it's actually slavery for the institution of slavery in the United States. ADOS is set out to shift the dialogue around our identity and to be an African American in its efforts to move to a discussion from melanin or skin color and properly centered discussion around lineage. Um, we all know that skin color isn't the end all be all. There's the different types of culture, languages, histories. The Black or the African diaspora is very diverse, and ADOS Atlanta just want to make sure that we are properly identified. What is ADOS about? It seeks to reclaim the restore the critical national character of the African American identity and experience, one grounded in our unique lineage, which is central to our continuing struggle for social and economic justice in the United States. Why is this important? Here you see a chart here. It shows. This is from the Institute for Policy Studies, and it shows here the black-white income wealth inequality. Here, the red line at the bottom is us, Black, and the blue line at the top is white. Now that you see that the white is at over $100,000, and Black is down there only around $1,200. So that is a huge wealth gap, and that is the primary reason why we have so many issues in the Black community. If we want to be whole, if we want to really stop all this police brutality and everything that's going on, we must close this. We must close this racial wealth gap here. This is the median household net worth. We're going to quickly point out that at the bottom here, the blue is white. At the bottom here, whites with less than a high school education has $82,000 or $83,000 in household net worth. And if you're Black and you're a college graduate, you only have 70,000. So what this chart is showing that a white person with less than a high school diploma has more household net worth than a Black person that has a college education with only 70,000 household net worth. And here at the very top here is post-college. You see that gap here at whites is 455,000 compared to Black at 141,000. And keep in mind, all of these data, the statistics we're showing is just it's grouping all Blacks together. It doesn't separate out ADOS. I'm pretty sure the numbers will be lower if we had data on just ADOS. And just a few cities here that shows the wealth of the different races in some of the major cities in the United States. Under the ethnicity column here, you have U.S. Blacks, and that's basically ADOS, and you have Black immigrants. You can see here in Los Angeles, U.S. blacks have 4,000 in wealth, and black immigrants have 72,000 in wealth. In Miami, um, U.S. blacks have 3,700 in wealth, and black immigrants in Miami have 12,000. In Boston, U.S. blacks only have $8 compared to 18,000. Uh, and in DC here, it's not that wide of a gap. In DC, it's 3,500 for U.S. blacks and 3,000 for black immigrants here. Um, and here, if you go to the whites and Asians, they're just, the gap is so wide here. You got whites in Los Angeles, 355,000. They're well over 100, 200,000 in all the categories. Asians too, they almost at 300,000 in Los Angeles and over 400,000 in DC.
Notebook.
Here is a chart that shows the asset makeup. I know it's hard to see. At the very top here, these numbers on the left side, this is the assets makeup that make up our wealth. You got $10,000 at the very top. It goes from $10,000 at the very top, and at the bottom it goes to $1 billion. So ADOS, we're in this top row for $10,000. The majority of Americans is probably in this $100,000 in this next one here. But the third one is $1 million, and it just goes all the way up to the billion. But we want to focus on this very top row here for $10,000 in assets that make up our wealth. The green is liquid. Red is household, and orange is vehicle. Yellow is retirement, and I don't know, this dirty white, that's life insurance, or maybe cream. All right, for ADOS, so what would you know that our wealth is around 1,200, only $1,700 a household here. So we will be in the $10,000 column, and you see the majority of our assets that make up our wealth is the residence here, which is in the red. So that is saying majority of black people, the majority of our wealth is in our house and in our vehicle. And vehicle is not a good measurement of wealth because we all know vehicles, they depreciate. So yeah, you can almost just eliminate the part with the vehicles, because they drop in value as soon as they leave off the lot. Here is this area here is our retirement and pensions, and you see that is the third biggest area here. But we all know the majority of the retirement and pensions is in the baby boomers generation. So, and probably can be the same for our primary residents. So the majority, the little wealth that we do have is African Americans, mostly in the hands of the baby boomers, which they are the the house owners, and they have the retirement and the pensions. My generation, um, I don't know anything about a pension. I heard about it though. My wife's dad told me about how he still gets $4,000 a month from GM. So he he feels bad for us. So so once our boomers, when the boomers are not here anymore, they you can see that they're aging out. So our little wealth that we do have, Hey, that thing it's about to be the millennial generation, the generation after that, we about to be hurting. I don't know what we gonna do, y'all. We don't get reparations. I don't know what we do because the baby boomers got all the wealth. Real quick here, let me show you a. Hold on. Why am I? 5:30, the city of Columbus joined the national sorry. That was for later. And here's a an article from a study. You can read it when you get a chance, but it's saying here that the median wealth for Black Americans will fall to zero by 2053. And by that chart I just showed you, after the boomers are not here anymore, yeah, we're gonna be flat at zero, and it's probably going to be sooner than 2053 now that we have COVID-19 here. So you can put this link in the chat if you want to read the entire article. And there goes the wealth gap chart again that I just showed you in our presentation. And I'll put the link in the chat if you want to read the rest of it. So this is why we're fighting so hard for reparations. Here is a book, From Here to Equality. We recommend everyone read it. What is unique about this book? There's plenty of books that go back and tell you the history of ADOS in America, from slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, mass incarceration. There are plenty of books about that, but what's unique about this book, that the writers gives you a detailed plan on how reparations could be done for ADOS in America. So the last three chapters.
I'd like to say that it's not that detailed. It's pretty basic, and I would like to see something more comprehensive. And the plan, quote unquote, that we have on ADOS101.com is more detailed than what Dr. Darity put in that book. I was disappointed at what he put in the book, quite frankly. But go on.
Yeah, we do have more information on ADOS101.com, but yes, the last three chapters of this book will gives you a good outline on how reparation can be done. And we here have the link. I'm sure Trisha put the link in the chat here for ADOS101.com. Tells you everything you need to know. Right now, we have a campaign going on to edit HR 40. It's been sitting in the House for years and hasn't moved anywhere. And we have a campaign going on to get that edited. The current version hasn't been updated since it was created. When was it? Was it 1989, I believe? So
yeah, 1989. It's been updated, but the updates happened around 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. And it was updated to include a commission that will be paid by the government of like I think before the commission was only like 6 people. Now it's up to like 12 or something. And so it just needs to be edited to make it not like a non-ending commission. We want a deadline. We want to address the racial wealth gap. We want an eligibility criteria, and we want to start the window with 1776 when the United States actually formed. But that's something that we want to push Congress to do, or just trash this thing and start all over.
Yep. All right, in this chart here, it shows you what it means to actually be ADOS. Are you ADOS? First, your race needs to be Black or a person identified as having origins or of any racial group in Atlanta. So in Africa, sorry. So Atlanta. So your race needs to be black. Your nationality needs to be American. Your language needs to be English, and your lineage descendants of slavery in the United States. What is the person's ancestral relationship to the United States of America? And we are the descendants of slavery in the United States. And yes, we do understand there was slavery in other areas of the world, but we're talking about the United States specifically right now. So this is what it means to be ADOS. All right, and I believe that's it for the presentation. I just want to go through a real quick rundown or who ADOS is. All right, Trish, are we gonna go right into the candidates now, or we're gonna?
Yeah, so next up, we're going to, I thought I saw her. Let me make sure. She went, she came back. All right. So next up, I'd like to present um, Joanna Potts, who's running for state senate in District 39, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so if you would tell us who you are, why you're running, and tell us about your district, and after that, we'll just ask you some questions.
Okay. Thank you so much. I was glad to be here. I'm interested in ADOS, just period, point blank. My name is Joanna Potts. I didn't come as a candidate necessarily. I'm glad to, and behind my desk is a candidate now. And I'm glad to be here, but I was just coming as an interested, concerned, and able-bodied person who would be glad to help out in any way, win, lose, or draw with this. So I've got the spiel. I'm prepared to introduce myself, but I was just coming as an observer. I'm in awe of you guys and what you all are doing. I am running for Georgia Senate in District 39, not running against Warnock. I'm running for a local race inside the state that would be to represent Southwest Atlanta, East Point, small portions of each, but it includes Southwest Atlanta, East Point, College Park, Union City, and a little bit of South Fulton. My background, I am a fourth generation native Atlantan. I am a graduate of Mays High School, University of Georgia. I'm an AKA. The reason that I am running is because of a couple of things that are important that are coming up that happen every 10 years that'll be happening in the January 2021 session. Budget is important every year, but this time, based on what's been happening with COVID, we know that the budget is going to be about a third less of what's usually available. Typically, and what they were expecting to be working with and budgeting for was about $48 billion. The biggest thing that the state spends money on is healthcare and education. And those two things, based on what's going on with COVID right now, are of major concern to me, period, and what I see happening in our community. With regard to healthcare, transparency is why I'm running. I'm not running for, all of the other things that everybody normally talks about. I'll be there to discuss that. But really, I'm running for transparency in COVID with regard to diagnosis, reporting, treatment, and any upcoming vaccine policy that we're going to have to deal with. I'm going to be a watchdog and a reporter back to my community and a liaison to find out what you guys want to hear, what you want to know, and what you want said in there at the State House. With regard to education, I have a bill that I would like to put up. I'm not so vain as to think that if I were to get in there a junior statesperson, first one is who can get a bill done, but I know that you can build consensus. It might be the type of thing that you have to partner with others. And it is something that I call the Little Red Schoolhouse Bill. And what I mean by that is with regard to education, we need to do some things to make common sense right now. I am a mother, I'm an aunt, godmother, all those things. And our children are hurting right now. They are sad, they are depressed. I had my 8-year-old niece with me yesterday all day campaigning. And it's like her first time out in weeks. And what, when I'm asking her about her Zoom school, she said that she's sad that she's at a new, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to meet my friends at my new school. So with regard to the Little Red Schoolhouse bill, what I'm getting at with that is it makes common sense for the state to support the school districts in making small, safe neighborhood meeting spaces for these children and teachers that are no larger than 10 or 15 children, so that it would be controllable, it would be trackable and traceable, because we have got to prepare for what's going on for the next 3 to 4 years. We can't keep starting and stopping and shutting down the entire school. That way, if there was an outbreak, it would be controllable. And these children, I'm just really concerned for, you know how Mr. Riley mentioned baby boomers, certain things that happen, draw a line in the sand, and that generation is going to be marked for the rest of their life. Well, these COVID graduates and COVID educated children, they certainly, we're living through history right now, even though it just seems like, hey, what's going on with us? I'm just so concerned about their development. I think that would be something that would be a sensible way to spend the money that's got to be spent on education. All the teachers, all the administrators, everybody still gets paid. And it brings our children out of the houses sometimes, because I just feel for what's going on with them. Also, our teachers are one of our greatest natural resources in the state. We cannot jeopardize or even expect or ask them to risk their lives in death traps, is what it could be, when nobody really knows anything about COVID just yet. We've all got theories. We've all got somebody we listen to or trust, but no one has told us definitively how you catch this thing, what it really is, and what really happens. With regard to even testing, one of the things that I have heard, and I went back and documented, I have some workers' compensation experience in my life to know that private labor law follows military law. The military has already said months ago, back in April and May, that if you ever have one positive COVID test, you would never enter military service. Just want to be, we got to keep our eyes and ears on this thing, not just what's happening today, but what do they have next? We know, look at us, we are suffering as Black people. I feel like in this environment, I can say this. I know that I'm running for office and every word I say is public and I must own it, but things always come down harder on us in our community. I'm just watching for the hook on this. Why are all the Black people dying? What's really going on? Because one of the things that I correlate when I see is, I just assume, I don't know what anybody's really thinking, but sometimes for behavior, when you're saying, what's up with this behavior that don't make no sense? What's behind that? I feel like white people have been convinced by Trump or whom else that they ain't gonna get this. This is a Black problem. And if it is a Black problem and people are dying by the day, they don't seem very concerned about saving our lives. They don't seem to mind being the ones super spreading it. So those are the main two reasons that I'm running. The third reason is the district lines will be redrawn in the 2021 session. That happens once every 10 years. Those 3 lines that the Georgia state legislators draw are for the Georgia Senate, the Georgia House, and the U.S. Congress. And those are so important. Right now, we have the 5th district, which was John Lewis's old seat, which I guess will presumptively be held by Nikema. No one's running against her in a majorly Democratic district. But that is the only majority Black congressional district that we have in the entire country. Those lines, they're always coming in. If you get a chance to, you may or may not be in District 39, but District 39 is an outlier out of all 56 districts in the state. It is the most gerrymandered district. You can study District 39 if you want to teach gerrymandering and inch in, zoom in, because what you will see, and I didn't even know how bad it was until I really started to look at it. Every center of commerce, if a corner got a plaza on it and it makes money, it's been drawn out. If it's a school, if it's something that is a landmark, drawn out. Lenox Square should fit in it. You know how a district should theoretically be a square. It looks like a belt, that's sliding through. There's no cohesiveness in the neighborhoods and the interest. So what I have, and I've been talking to, we got some Buckhead people up in there, and I've been talking to them. They seem to love the idea. Have a North Side compromise. There is one senator who is eating our lunch. Her name is Nan Orrick. She is a Caucasian senator and they are coming into, thank you for who's putting it up there. Look at it like coming in from the east. They're eating our lunch over here, taking out the AU Center, the Dome. All of that stuff should just naturally be a part of our district. I have the utmost respect for Vince Fort and the street fighting that he does. He is probably, I'm 48. So, just that generational respect. He's probably got 20 or 25 years on me. So out of all due respect, I would don't want to criticize his service or what his intentions were. But he was in there for 26 years while they did this. And nobody said anything. And he certainly didn't let us know that it was happening. So I just want to go and be the one who says something. So I guess if you guys have listened to me for a few minutes, you already know I'm the one who's going to say something. I like to make myself very available, and I had the same phone number for 15 years. My email address is AOL. It never changed. I'm going to put all my information here in the chat. And as I said, win, lose, or draw, I'm just very interested in, being a part of this group and a part of what you all are doing. One of the things that Trish and I've had a little bit of conversation, just texting a little lightweight, and I have had the opportunity to, tell her how interested I am in this. I've been working with a group of attorneys. Most of them are attorneys. It's not like because they're attorneys is why we're together. I'm not an attorney, but for about mostly based out of the Southeast. It started with a group of people out of the University of Georgia, and we've been talking about reparations and all the ways of handling it, like I know everybody has, from their own silos for years. So when we saw ADOS come out, and we were just happy to see you guys. And I had never really been approached or known how to join it. I didn't look very hard. I see you guys are right out there on the website, but to actually have been invited by a real body person, I'm just super excited to be here. I had questions for you guys. I'm just interested in whose philosophy you all follow. I'm interested to know whether or not, and I guess one of the debates that I heard, I'll throw this out there. Trish, stop me if I'm rambling too much, but just recently, I would say in the last week, there was a video. Dr. Claude Anderson was on the Breakfast Club. Are y'all familiar with him? Anybody follow him? I don't know if you all like him or don't like him.
Familiar.
Or have very, I'm not, what the philosophy, I don't want to come in and pull out anybody, but I study a lot of different people, and I like some of the stuff they say and like some of the stuff they don't like some of it. We can all, pull from all. But one of the things that he was talking about with reparations, which is one of the questions that's always brought up to us in the debate, is do we, how do we feel about reparations, and what form would we like to see that take? And I was a little disappointed. If you know Dr. Anderson, he has a lot of sway, and he's been in a lot of, higher circles and that kind of thing. And I don't know if he is if they still listening to him, or if he's blackballed now, because he certainly does talk a lot of black. But what he said was what I certainly don't want to see. And that was a zone, an opportunity zone, a zone and a loan. That's what went into my mind. I'm not sure what you guys' total position is, but I would just let you know how I feel personally. I think everybody needs a check, and they need it today, and they need it all at the same time. And if we want to party with it, as Keisha would say, and I like Keisha, but I didn't necessarily like this reference, but if it's us, it's us. If they want to buy Gucci slides and brown liquor with it, have your Gucci slides and brown liquor party. Because I think that an apology is needed. I'm a psychology major, bachelor's degree, just enough to be dangerous. But I think about the way the thinker thinks. And I think about the way things make you feel. And it's just a certain feeling. I notice Black immigrants from any other place can come over here, and they see America as the home of the free, as a land of opportunity. And how you look at a thing determines everything. They can come over here with $10 or $12. And then the next thing we know, they own the corner store that we shop at. They're not hiring anybody, and they love it over here, and they're looking down at us. I really feel like the biggest problem with us as American descendants of slaves, Black folks native to America, born in America, is the narrative that we have in our minds. I'm not saying that it's incorrect, but we don't see America as a land of opportunity. We see it as a land of oppression. With anything in resolving a relationship, the first thing you got to do is own it and apologize for us to get over it. And there used to be a commercial to say it with flowers. I say it with money. What kind of check what kind of graduation card you like to get? One with a check in it. I think that the amount is $80,000. Some smarter gentlemen I tried to get on the phone who have all the $80,000 per grown adult, and some type of portion that is growing to children, maybe starting around 15 or 16, so that, you know, pick them up maybe like everybody about 16. Let's say they did it in June 2021. Everybody who's 16 and older at that point who is Black is in the program. I think that we need zones and loans, but that is on top of the payment. The 80,000, I think the way that they came up with that was to like our national debt is something like 20 or 30 trillion dollars.
Ms. Potts, can you hear me?
Yes, too much.
Yeah, as far as the numbers now, we have economists who's been studying for reparations for years. So we want to let you know you don't have to strain your brain trying to figure it out.
Oh, y'all got the number. I see it down there. It's 800,000, and I could be wrong. I'm sorry. You don't have to try to figure it out. All we need is your support. We got it figured out. You don't have to. You got my support. But thank you. And I will stop now. I won't take up too much of your time. I'm for a payment, and I think we need land as well. I think that the way that we go about it, and I'm sure y'all are on it, and you know the way to go about it, is that what I do like about Dr. Anderson is he does a good job breaking it down how everybody that came here got something except us. I think he does a good job putting us in a category that he calls exceptional. We are the only folks that did not immigrate to America. And that gets us to having to have this argument, whether we think we are natives or whether we think we were brought over as slaves. I'm not sure which one I believe. I kind of lean towards native already here. But either way, we were not, everybody else came on purpose. And when they came, they received their package, their affirmative action package. All their grants were handed to them. And I think that we got to get all of that. We need every bit of it. But I think the first thing that needs to happen is a national apology and a payment. And then from there, we decide what we want to do. Because if we take it the loans and zones way, it's going to be the same like out at the Atlanta airport. Everybody say, oh, we got a minority participation program. Everybody can't fill out a loan application and participate in the program. So that's only going to help the talented 10th again. And that's not what we need. If people that can't read, they still Black, they still feeling it every day. So I just certainly agree with the payment.
Yeah, like we do agree with the payment, but it's not just that. If you go to ADOS101.com, talks about not only a payment but education, ownership. Like we even talk about if there's going to be a Green New Deal, then we need to be on the ground floor of that, because everything else that America has built, it was built on top of us, and we didn't have the opportunity to be Walmart or Amazon or Apple or Microsoft. So anything else that you do, we have to be on the ground floor. It can't just be putting white folks on top of us. Again, that's not what we're doing. So ADOS 101 talks about that, and our reparations is multi-generational, meaning you can't just give it to boomers and then the next generation, what are they gonna do? Like, it can't just be you just throw money at us and then leave us, because you oppressed us for 500 years. So it took 500 years to get here. I don't know how many centuries it's going to take to repair us, but whatever it takes, they have to be willing to do, and that's what we're fighting for. It's not just a one-time thing, it's multi-generational, just like you've oppressed us. So, but that was part of what we were talking about in the presentation, is the reason that we're wealthless, what it looks like, and the way forward. And it's also on ADOS101.com. So since you were not, I mean, like this is, you were just here to
but I feel very good. Whatever you want to talk about, I'll be glad to. I want to throw some questions.
We had questions, but like it's like, I don't know. Do y'all want to do these questions, or do you just want to move on to the councilman?
I have
I think
a
we're at
Who has
4:55.
who has a question? Somebody said something.
I have a question. It was stated that the wealth difference between black people and white people in California. What's the wealth difference in Georgia?
We don't have that.
Oh, you don't have the information, but it's probably very similar.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's probably similar.
There have been like 8 studies done. We're trying to get one done in this state, but we don't have that information for Atlanta or Georgia.
Also, I live in Jefferson County, and Jefferson County used to be like Democratic, but then they gerrymandered everything and made it Republican. Do you think you can, Ms. Potts, you could do something about gerrymandering, because that gerrymandering around the United States is very racist.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Whaley, I would like to think that I could. When people ask me, what do you do and how do you fight? I mean, I have to start by, too many people have told me, I know you don't think they're gonna listen to you. You just gonna be, brand new, and you got to build up some stature and all of that kind of thing. But you got to believe you can do it. So I do believe that I can shake up some trees. I certainly will say something. I won't ever sit by quietly when I think, something needs to be said. And I want to go in so bad, I almost can taste it. Because one of the things that you can do as a senator, if you can't do anything else, is they have something they call the well. And I'm finding out about that. They say, well, we think you'd be good for the well. I'm like, what is that? That don't sound too right. But I think it's just from what I find out, it's a place where all the state lawmakers go, and they have one in every state house, and the press basically sits there every day. And if you want to say something and get on the news, or you want to just not necessarily to get on the news, but to go on the record for, what happened in that lawmaking session, you go in there and you say your piece. I can certainly go to the well. I've got friends in high places and grew up in Atlanta, friends with the news folks. I mean, when I'm in there, if I get y'all send me in there, I intend to make so much noise about the gerrymandering process, because I think that that's one of the things that, I'm 48 years old and I consider myself pretty astute. I've been pretty involved in politics, but that's why we need committees, because all of us, is 5,000 things we need to know. All of us can't be up on all of, each one of those things. And gerrymandering, Mr. Whaley, that's the way they kill us. We can be out here voting ourselves crazy in all these lines. But if we don't have a district, that's what I'm talking about 39. I see what's happening at 39. They're turning 39 into a meaningless thing with just enough people in it. You know what I'm saying? So I wish I had the answer, a better answer, but I don't like to bite off more than I can chew and tell, oh yes, I can do that. I think what I can do is to bring attention to it, make noise about it, and to get in the ear and build consensus with, make them feel bad about it, whatever you have to do to let people know that that's not right. And we have got to protect some black voting blocks, and those are districts.
Thank you.
I think, isn't it your position that you're running for is like a what do I call, like an advocate for the state, for your district? Like I think there was somebody else who was running and they described their job, and I was like, oh, they're an advocate. Like they go to the federal government and tell them what the district needs. Like, yeah.
That's not exactly how I understand state senate. But again, it's every day I'm learning a little bit more about what they do. What I think that a state senator does is certainly advocate, for their district. But as described, your main job is to decide on the budget every year. So you are advocating for things that basic agencies and programs in your district have brought to you. Like, let's just say that there is, I know down in my district, I don't know that one of the biggest problems we got in District 39 is we're very disorganized. We don't have those groups and PACs and lobbyists like they do in these other surrounding districts. The biggest thing that I can do is bring information to how it works and how we get there. advocating for sure, but I think that that is the way that you can almost get a little not pay attention to your job, because we've had those type, most of the senators and state representatives, you're not going to really know them because it's not the sexy lights, camera, action job, because their job is to basically be like a forensic accountant, going through that budget and finding waste and spend, and finding, you got to find money in that budget for something that you want to advocate for in your district or in your area. And then the next thing about it that I find very interesting is you kind of have to be an advocate more for issues that affect a broader population than you can for your own district. Because like, think about, I think we're most familiar, well, I was anyway, most familiar with like a city council setup or like county commissioners, because that's where we usually have a lot of Black electeds. We run it and those kind of things. In a city council, they're like 12 or 15 people, all in the same basically geographic area. They basically all want the same things. They're just trying to exactly figure out who's going to sponsor it first, how they're going to do it, you know, arguing about, you know, deciding on the actual dollars and cents and fine tuning things that they all basically want. When you go to the state house, you can't just be a senator or representative for your own area. There are 56 senators, there are 170 state representatives, and it takes a 51% majority in each body to pass anything. So you got to get 110 people on board of anything that you want. So in as much as that was my first thought, okay, yeah, I'll just be out there just getting everything that we need in the neighborhoods of District 39. It doesn't exactly work like that. I'm learning as I'm going. You have to care about issues all over, because I would need 110 people. The other 109 of whom don't live in District 39 to get anything done. So it's not so much that you bring it to your neighborhood, you support initiatives that benefit your neighborhood, as far as I am.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, I had a quick question, but if you guys are still doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wanted to know if does that budget include like police budgets, or you know?
Public safety is included in it as well. Yes, public. They're like 7 things that the state pays for. Please don't. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'm going to be challenged. Health and education are 70%. They're the first biggest 2. Healthcare, and on the healthcare, that's paying for basically like Medicare and Medicaid. So that's the seniors and the gaps that they slip through, and disadvantaged people, and providing them healthcare. Public safety is the number 7, and that's the smallest of all the 7 things that they pay for. That's the smallest budget line. I mean, it's still billions, but it's the smallest of things. So yeah, definitely, because the state is spending money on public safety. They're giving about half of the money to every police department, and then the rest of it will be coming from a county or the city. They have an awful lot of sway in what goes down there. With regard to public safety, on my campaign paperwork and my statement with regard to that is, murdering is not a part of arresting. Nobody gets to kill anybody on their job. So I certainly support the state reining back in, the police. I'm sure all of us know, we historians and people who like to study all the little details of how we get here. The original concept of police was catching slaves. So it's no question to me why. I mean, I hate it, but no question when I'm about tired of us asking, why do they do this? I mean, how do we scrap the whole system and say, let's start all over? Here's what police do. Here's what we do need. But it's a culture that's just been passed down for so many years. No one ever went back and said, okay, scratch off the catching slaves part. That's still what is the pervasive, attitude.
Yeah,
I also feel.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I mean, I also feel like this, and we as Black people bear a lot of responsibility on what we call the police for. MSI is my little acronym. This is not a part of my campaign, but I call it murder, serious, in-house. Anytime you call the police on a Black man, you got a 50-50 chance you're phoning in a murder. You got a 50-50 chance. So do you really want to phone in a murder? Is it that serious, and can it be handled in-house? 2 of the last murders that I saw, 3 of them are Wendy's in Atlanta. Did the Wendy's operator girl really have to call the police on him? Black on black. The gentleman that got shot in the back 7 times, God bless him, I think he's living. That was over some keys in a domestic dispute. A black girl called the police on him. Did she really have to call the police on him? We got to understand what the police are. When you are calling, you're calling the slave catchers. So a lot of there was a gentleman, he actually stood there. I wouldn't say this out loud in front of everybody. I'm just talking to us inside the family now, because I'm not trying to give them no excuses. But I'm saying half of this, we got to be a little, just go ahead and call them what they are. They're the slave catchers, not protectors and servers, not officer friendly. I know there's some good cops. We ain't talking about the good cops. When they talking about black people, they ain't talking about the good black people. We talking about the news. We talking about the outliers. We talking about the exceptions. The great ones, we don't need to work on them. But the gentleman sat there. He called his brother, one of the ones that got tortured in the street with his clothes off and his hands behind. His brother called the police on him because he was on a drug rant. And then his brother taped the video while they stood out there and tortured the man for 7 minutes, and his brother was on camera while they were shooting him. That's in-house stuff. You can handle that in the house. That's not for calling the police. So yeah, we need reform, but we need reform with our own selves too. We call a white lady a Karen who calls for anything. I don't know what we need to call ourselves. Maybe we a Lakeisha. We got to stop that. I tell my daughter, she's 19, she's going into, where she's starting to relate with men. And I tell her, listen, it is on you to choose who you are around. I'm 48 years old. I had 3 husbands. I don't have one right now. And I'm not blaming any of them or saying that it's them. But, if you're going to play around in this world, sometimes you might find yourself in a position you don't want to be in, a little more than you done bit off. I could have. I ain't never called the police on no black man about a situation I got myself in, that all I need to do is get myself out of it and not come back no more. So, I just think a lot of that, we got to give a lot of the propaganda that makes folks hate black people. We sometimes buy into that ourselves. And I'm not blaming us because we're watching TV. I have a line that I say, everybody is afraid of the black people that they don't know. And that includes us. About a year ago, I was riding around with my daughter and niece in the car, and we saw 4 black boys, just as good looking as can be, walking down the street. They was dressed in all black. They looked like they were playing in their phones and stuff. My daughter said, uh-oh, wonder what they up to. I pulled the car over, dead stop. I said, what do you mean that they're up to? These look exactly like your friends. What is different about them than your friends? Well, you just don't know them. And we have got.
Yeah, it's deep. It's very deep. It's ingrained in us. 400 years of this. So yeah, it's ingrained in us. So we are going to move on, but I did want to mention that ADOS said that we need you there because you shared that the descendants of slaves in America received 3% of state contracts. So that was a major 3%.
Just 3. They don't want to talk about that. It's never been more than 3. And I think 3 is generous because I can't think about 4 families who are out there getting state contracts. We know who they are. They're the families of all of the past mayors. And they don't share it down with us. God bless them. We know who they are.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Ray had a question.
Okay, Ray.
Yeah, real quick, Ms. Potts. One of the major issues, first, full disclaimer, Atlanta native, Southwest Middle School, Benjamin Mays High. So you already know what's up.
Yes.
One of our biggest issues as just speaking as natives is Atlanta natives care more about the Atlanta Falcons than they do about gentrification. We have a serious boule problem where we're so comfortable, we feel like we've already made it. A lot of us aren't even active politically unless it is their soror or their frat. So I feel like one of the ways you can help us is you had the ability to coalesce that. So what do you think about a movement to actually get Atlanta natives into the political process more to where they care about issues that affect us specifically? How can you help us with that?
Well, I think that Nikema Williams and the John Lewis seat was a big wake-up call. I do not fault Nikema Williams in any way for what happened, but apathy has been a great thing. One of the things that I think is the biggest issue in Atlanta. What's your name and answer the question? Ask the question.
Ray, you can call me
Ray.
Ray.
Okay, Ray. I don't want to click on my thing. I'm the worst at Zoom. Every time I move it, I get thrown out the party. Ray, tell me. I don't lost my train of thought. You, are we talking? I'm trying not. I'm trying to.
I
So-
think,
I'm
I
trying
think
to.
he's
I'm
asking.
compartmentalizing, not trying to say the wrong thing. That made me shut it down. I was about to say something crazy. I know
No.
what you're asking. Are you saying the boule, the talented 10% type situation?
Well, yes, not only that, but if I'm not familiar, I heard you on the People's Agenda call saying that you have a organization about Atlanta Native, the
Oh,
Atlanta.
yeah, Native Atlanta. Okay, yeah.
Speak to that, please.
Okay.
Because I think that's a major issue. Like, this is ADOS Atlanta, and I feel like we should be at 2,000 members by now, 3,000, 4,000 members.
I agree with you.
In,
I agree with
in the 39th district alone. So speak to apathy and how you may be able to help with that.
Well, I'm certainly willing to, and to first of all, the main answer, and I don't want to just sound like I'm always just saying the same thing, but first, you just got to speak about it and let them know. And I am one who does not mind agitating for good. So I am a coalescer of people. I am able to get people to move towards right things. I think that what I am realizing is the baby boomers have us spoiled, and they have also dealt us a bad hand here in Atlanta to the Native children. By that, I am saying, I know I might be stepping on somebody's toes. I'm just giving my own opinion. I can be set straight and I take correction. They never taught us nothing. They held on to the jobs for too long, hold information in silos, die with the information, almost rather go get them a person from out of town and groups to be around them so that they don't have to share with other natives. And they don't mentor down. So in as much, I would say my own, that's what I want to say is that's the baby boomers problem in Native Atlanta. The other side of it in Native Atlanta is because the baby boomers have been so on point and so on guard for things, we have kind of gotten to be like children politically for way too long, because the mayors were always, your mama's age. And it seemed like the older people were handling it. And I will say to you, it's not easy to break into their groups. They don't seem to want anybody but their own little cliques. That's why I started the Native Atlanta Alliance, because I was like, y'all are not going to hold us out of here. We don't let people in over age 59. You can't be over 59 when you get in. It shook them up a little bit, and we allowed a lot of power. I got all the elected officials. We don't publish our list, but nobody minds telling. But because the people steal it and do stuff with it. But almost every native-born elected official under 59 in Fulton County, City of Atlanta, East Point, College Park, all those people are in the alliance, and we can come together and do great things. We've operated a little bit in silos here and there, but the big push, I did not come to the alliance to ask them to support me as a candidate, not actively, because I am the executive director and I put it together, and I wasn't planning on running. I didn't put it together for them to support me. A lot of them are, but I've not leaned on them in that way. But we have supported other Native candidates fully, 100% behind them. Most recently, Patrick Labat. So the movement that we can make, there's always been a plan to go to the Fortune 500 companies, and COVID changed that. Most of the biggest 500 top earning companies in Georgia don't have Native Atlantans on the board of directors, and they say that they're the Atlanta chapter of this and the Atlanta chapter of that. So it's a lot of stuff, that we can do. The plans are great. With what can we do? I'm trying to tone in. You saying, how can we make the connection as natives to what exactly, Ray?
Well, I think that what you said initially coming in is that you're here to learn and that you want to coalesce with us.
Join this organization.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I think that's awesome, and that's what we need. So in saying that, we have to move on to the next part. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for your time.
Thank
I
you,
really
thank you, thank
appreciate
you.
you coming. I'm so glad that you did come, and I was excited that you were excited. So
I am so excited about this. And again, win, lose, or draw, I want to be with you guys for the long haul. I have some more folks that can come and help, that can lend some hands on research and writing and all that kind of stuff. So I respect what you guys are doing so much. I'll be a silent partner and a speaker outer when you need me to, but I'm just happy. This is not my last meeting. Thank y'all for welcoming me here.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have Councilman Khalid. Is that how you say your name? Khalid? I'm not a names person.
Yes, Khalid is fine. I mean, Khalid is a difficult name. It's said different ways in different places.
Yeah, because I was saying Khaled, but I don't know, because I don't know. Okay, so I gotta find you. And you said you wanted to screen share, but I have to find you on here. Here you are.
I think.
I found him.
Okay. Cool.
And now I'm gonna, why are you here, Larry? Why am I looking at you? There you go.
Oh, there we
Okay,
go.
now, okay, so you wanted to share your screen. You tell us who you are. You have the floor.
Awesome. I am going to try and do a couple of things at one time, including talking with the people in the chat who are joining us with the chat. So first of all, thank you so much for this invitation. Special thanks to South Fulton resident Juliet Rankins, who first let me know that Atlanta had an ADOS chapter. I've been hearing about it for over a year. I'm very interested, as Ms. Potts said, this won't be the last time that you see me here. And I'm glad to know that we're going to have an Augusta chapter as well. Paul, you've been recruited, I think, to get that started. I'm going to do a little presentation. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. I really enjoyed your presentation, Mr. Riley, and I too like to keep things a little interactive. So my name is Khalid. First, let me say I was born and raised in South Fulton. So I was born and raised in Atlanta. Ms. Potts, I need to get into that group. I'm definitely under 59, and I am running to be mayor of the city of South Fulton. So the first thing I want to do is just talk about the city of South Fulton for those of you all who may not know. I'm very big into political education. And so let me just give you that little background. And there's all of these things you can find on my website. KhalidCares.com is the website, and I'll put that in the chat. So I came out of the Black Lives Matter movement. I think that's probably the most important thing. That grounds a lot of my politics, not just because the movement for Black lives and their comprehensive platform for justice beyond just ending police violence, but that grounds a lot of my politics, and also the way that I came into politics, which was I was on the political education committee. So when I ran for, I was always interested in politics. When I joined and helped launch the Atlanta chapter here in 2015, I quickly gravitated to the political education working group because I wanted to understand, what is qualified immunity and why can police kill so many Black folks and not go to jail? Why is this gentrification happening? Why do homes and neighborhoods become instantly more valuable when white people start buying houses in them? Like, what is all of that about? So for me, that is how I got started in political education. And so then when I later went to work for Stacey Abrams, and when she was the leader of the House Democratic Caucus, and I started working in state house races throughout Georgia. And then when 2016, when he who shall not be named became president of the United States, the residents of South Fulton County, which you can see here in color in this area, decided to form a city. Being from Atlanta, born and raised in the SWATs, I knew that it was going to be really Black. But it turns out that the city of South Fulton is actually the Blackest city in America. So of cities over 100,000 people, and I'll just go to, in cities over 100,000 people, South Fulton has 89.7 or 90% African American population. And so that makes us blacker. That makes us blacker than Detroit, blacker than Washington, D.C., and lots of places that you would consider to be the Blackest cities in America. This is actually a list. You can pull it up on Wikipedia. I'll be very glad after this 2020 census, we will appear at the top of the list. We just have this information already because we have the American Community Survey, which happens in between the decennial census, and the Georgia Municipal Association helped me figure out this information. But I want you to notice two cities that are not on the list. DC, which was actually the first city in America in the 70s to have a majority Black population, and Atlanta, which was one of the first 3 cities in the 80s to have a majority Black population. Atlanta is no longer one of the Blackest cities in America, and we are on the verge of becoming not a majority Black city. I think we're at about 55% right now. And one of the reasons that obviously that is driven by gentrification. So I'm going to stop. I'm dizzying myself with this presentation and trying to work all these screens. But one of the reasons that, or the reason that I am running for mayor is really because I want to make sure that this Blackest city in America remains the Blackest city in America. And so the actual slogan for my entire mayor's race is Black on purpose. I want to make sure that we are not just, and for me, that's a double entendre. So we're not just unapologetically Black in our demographics, and that we own that, because believe it or not, there are quite a few people in this city that don't want to live in the Blackest city in America. We have council people, as Ms. Rankin knows, who thinks that a little gentrification is a good thing. Those of us who have lived through the gentrification of places like Vine City and Eastlake Meadows and Techwood know that there is no such thing as a little gentrification, that once that starts, that it doesn't end until those neighborhoods have been completely colonized. And so the first part is getting us to be proud of the fact that we are the Blackest city in America. But the second part is to be Black with the purpose of uplifting Black people. And so what I say is, if a city that is 90% Black cannot prioritize the development of Black people, then where can Black people be a priority in America, right? And so there are a couple of pieces to this platform. I do a lot around political education. So you can see that there is a Black History page on my site. I talk a lot about the racial wealth gap, which you all already brought up. But I also talk about the reasons behind that racial wealth gap. I really love this map from the University of Richmond. I don't know if you've seen it, but as we heard in the opening presentation, for most Americans, the majority of our wealth is held in our homes. And there have been policies that have been put in place by the federal government. A lot of people know that about redlining and banks, but many people don't know that that the maps that banks use to redline our neighborhoods actually came from the federal government, from the Federal Housing Administration. So this is a great map from the University of Richmond, where you can go to any city and you can actually see the original red line maps that were used. This is not going to cooperate with me now because I'm doing this presentation, but you can zoom in and actually see the actual neighborhoods in these original red line maps that have been used all over America, right? And I also talk about the history of, even though we had all these obstacles in place, when we've had cities like Greenwood and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and all of these neighborhoods in Atlanta, there've been all of these race riots that have happened where even when we were able to overcome all of these institutional obstacles and build wealth, right, we had racists who were again buttressed by police forces and government forces to drop bombs as recently as, you know, the 1980s, right, in Philadelphia, where people were trying to do this. And so I think that piece of political education is an important part of the work. And the other piece that I think is an important part of the work is just this general political education. So when I ran for city council, I didn't walk around with sheets that had my, you know, name and bio and a picture of my family and all of that. Because we were becoming a new city, I walked around with frequently asked question sheets about what it would mean for us to become a city. Like who would handle the police, who would handle the schools, who would handle, you know, all these different things. And I've continued this whole political education initiative. This is just a key part of who I have been as a council person. A lot of people don't understand that the things that affect us the most as individuals, those decisions are actually made at the state and the municipal and the county level. And so to further that, I have this newsletter that I've had more than 130 issues of that really talk about all of these different issues that are happening in the city. I have, my computer's running slow, so this is not gonna load up, but I have a YouTube channel where I have all of these educational videos that talk about, that talk about everything from zoning to how the new voting machines work to, I just talk about a lot of stuff, right? I don't know why, I don't know what's going on right now, but so I'm just gonna go through a couple of pages on the site. That would probably be the easiest thing to do. There is this zoning page where I have videos that give an introduction to like how zoning works, what are the zoning classes and what do they actually mean. I'm not gonna try and open more things up because that just seems to, but what are the zoning classes actually mean? And I go through the city budget and, you know, what the city budget means. I spend a lot of time talking about political education with the city budget. Someone actually asked about police budgets earlier, so I'm going to share this graphic. This is a graphic that I use a lot. At the local and county level, 30 to 50% of all of our tax dollars are spent on police and or public safety. And one of the things that I say repeatedly in this campaign is that we cannot police our way to prosperity, right? And that there are other things that we should be spending our money on besides more police, and that every dollar that we spend on police that we can't spend on economic development. I am going to show you one more thing. I'm showing you like all of these screens. But I'm going to show you one more screen that I think is really important, and that is, and I have not shown this to very many people. It's going to be on YouTube now, but this is the platform that really talks about what it means to be Black on purpose. And there are three key components. One is increasing Black land ownership, increasing access to capital for Black entrepreneurs, and increasing career opportunities for Black youth. This entire platform will be available online in the coming months, but I'm just going to go to my outline and talk so that you guys can ask me questions. I feel like I've been talking for a long time, but I think that it's important. I've heard a lot of talk about money and us making sure that we get our fair share of money and capital. I do want to say that I am not a capitalist, that I am actually a socialist. So I do believe in community control over resources and us sharing resources, which I actually think is an essentially African is an essentially African quality. There is something called Afro-socialism. There's a page, there's a link on my page that talks about what Afro-socialism is. But longer no shorter, I talk a lot about us being a village. And in traditional African cultures, we don't decide things by a 50+1 majority. We decide things by not a simple majority, but by a consensus. Right? We bring everyone in the village to the table so that everyone gets a say, and that everyone is included in the decision making. So that's what I've been trying to do with political education. But I do think that being Black on purpose is about more than economic enfranchisement of our communities. That we really have to talk about post-traumatic slave disorder, and because that is what drives residents of our city, Black residents of our city, to say, I don't want to live in the Blackest city in America. Or if I think if we had more white people in my neighborhood, my property values would go up, right? So like we've got to talk about that. We've got to talk about the psychological effects of slavery, and as much as we talk about these institutional drivers of income inequality. I think that it is interesting and sad that in a city like Atlanta that has had nearly 50 years of continuous Black leadership in the mayor's office and in the city, in our city councils, that we are also #1 for income inequality. That a child born in poverty in Atlanta or in a working class neighborhood in Atlanta is less likely than anywhere else in America to come up out of that. And how that happened under generations of Black leadership is one of the reasons that I think that we need to not just have Black leaders, but to have leaders that are Black on purpose. And so I'll close with this, and that is speaking about reparations and how we enact some of these things on the city level. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with Evanston, Illinois, and they are doing reparations. They're investigating doing reparations through attacks on legalized marijuana. I think that that is very important. There are now more states that have legalized marijuana than there are states that do not. No southern states have legalized marijuana yet, but it is coming. And when it comes, I want to make sure that we, as African Americans, have access to that. There's a really great video from
recreational weed is now legal in California.
There's a really great video from Al Jazeera, actually, that talks about things that they're doing in California, particularly in Oakland, where they go into neighborhoods that have been traditionally over-policed. And in addition to vacating marijuana convictions going back to the 1970, they are now programs that subsidize people who were formerly in prison for marijuana to actually have their own cannabis businesses and grow houses and dispensaries. In most places where marijuana has become legal, African Americans have been locked out of the market, either because we have been over policed and have criminal records, or because we simply do not have enough capital to start one of these dispensaries. And in a lot of states, you cannot. There are a lot of most banks in most states will not allow you to get loans or to even put the money that you make from your dispensaries into their banks because they are federally insured and marijuana is still on this federal schedule, right? So very often, in order to even open a store or a dispensary, you have to be able to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash to run a cash business. You have to be able to have a vault to hold all of that money on site or somewhere outside of a bank. You basically have to create your own bank. And so some of the things that people are doing in places like Oakland and now Seattle are finding ways to make sure that African Americans who have been historically over policed and locked out of this market now have access to this market. And I think with that, I will stop. The last thing I said I was going to stop like 2 times ago, but the last thing that I'm going to say now is that in addition to another thing that I think that we can do at the city level is to subsidize. So city councils don't really control boards of education. In Fulton County, we have a board of education whose headquarters moved from Cleveland Avenue to Sandy Springs and is controlled by, in the same way that our county commission is controlled by a majority of North Side residents, our school board is controlled by a majority of North Side residents. So they decide what our kids read, what our kids learn. But what we could do as a city council, if we were not spending so much money on police, is supplement the education that our children are receiving. So there's been a big movement for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, which I think is important, but I am interested in us supplementing with what I call a rich curriculum, which is reading, inclusive, civics, and history. So there are not a lot of people who understand what municipal government does. There are not a lot of people that understand the difference between city and county government and who controls what. When we go to vote, very often after we vote for the president and our congressperson, there are all of these other things like public service commissioner and land surveyor and these constitutional questions that are on the ballot that people don't really have a lot of information on. I do a complete voter education guide where I break those things down, but I think that it's not something that you at 30 or 40 as you're going to vote should be seeing for the first time. It's something that we should be learning in school. So another thing that I'm interested, another initiative that I am pushing is to lower the voting age in municipal elections. And this has actually been done in Maryland so that 16-year-olds can actually vote for their city council people in certain cities in Maryland. And what that does is that it allows children, as they are actually learning, because 11th grade, right, is when we actually, many of us actually take civics and we start learning these lessons, but then we don't vote for another 5 to 10 years after we learn these things in civics. So actually a lot of these things we actually did learn and we just forgotten. And so innovations like that allow young people as they are learning about civics to actually apply the lessons that they're learning in real life and vote for city council people and maybe even run themselves at 18 are things that I'm interested in. And I see questions. Fulton County Schools actually does teach civics. It's a part of political science. They teach it for a few weeks. And we actually also learn it in 8th grade and Georgia history, which is when we learn it here in Fulton County. With that, I'm going to stop talking and just take some questions.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you have to say, and thank you for coming to our forum today. Before I open the floodgates, I just want to say, we don't live in a socialist society. We live in a capitalist society, and that society was built on top of us. And the mean wealth gap is at $800,000. So giving us a dispensary without giving us wealth will not help us. Like, it may help a few people, but on the whole, our whole community is dying. And until we are repaired, and that means $800,000 at the very least in cash in all of our hands, we're going to die off. We are a dying breed. So I appreciate what you're saying, but we are pushing for reparations because without it, we die. We'll be extinct.
So I want to respond to that. I am 100% on board with reparations. I've asked every political candidate. I worked with the Bernie Sanders campaign, and when Bernie Sanders came to Atlanta, I was the moderator for a panel, and my first question was about reparations. I 100% believe in reparations. A couple of things. So I think that there is a false, I really invite people to visit khalidcares.com/socialism. I think that there has been a false narrative about us being a capitalist society versus being a socialist society. We are actually somewhere in the middle. We clearly collect taxes and redistribute wealth to do things like pave roads, have free public schools, and states other than Georgia have subsidized Obamacare. So there are parts of our society where we are already doing that. So as a socialist, what I am arguing for is that we do that more often. As a person that's running for a city to be a mayor of a city, I cannot. What you're talking about is a federal issue. Reparations is a federal issue. What I am interested in doing, though, is what can we do at the city level, right, to push this conversation forward. So as a city, we could not give out $800,000 checks, but we could possibly give out $800 checks, right, based on the taxes that we are getting from marijuana or even alcohol. There's a Mayor Tubbs in Stockton, California that is investigating universal basic income. And so the idea is, what can we do at the city level? We know that a lot of progressive innovations in government, from everything from healthcare, which started universal healthcare, which started at the state level in Massachusetts, to marijuana and reparations, which we're seeing happen at the city level, to things like Martin Luther King Day and making Election Day a holiday. A lot of those things start small at the city level. And so that's, I want to push the conversation forward by doing that.
I just want to jump in real quick. We're not opposed to those ideas, doing something at the city level, but we would appreciate it if you don't call it reparations. For like the Evanston is for, I think their criteria is for basically all Black people. I think they say you just got to have one drop. So when you use the word reparation, that's only for the descendants of slavery in America. So if you want to do something in the city level, and we would like you to think about calling it something else, maybe Black something, or because we don't want to start just throwing out the word reparations for everything. It could hinder our fight at the federal level, and they might say something stupid like, oh, Illinois, they had a reparations program. They already have it. So we kind of want to stop people from just throwing around the word reparations. You can call it Black benefit package or something, but that's something we would like you to think about.
Yeah, a lot of what you're saying isn't reparations. It's just stuff we should have as a citizen.
Yes. However, one of the unique things about the city of South Fulton, right, is that we are 90% African American, right? 9 out of 10, maybe not 9 out of 10, because we definitely do have an African population that is not African American. But the majority of people that live in this city are American descendants of slavery. And so if we improve, and so this is part of the debate that I have begun to enter into running for city council, because there are people that are saying, oh, you're talking about all of this Black stuff, you're going to scare away white people. First off, my first response to that is that people have been trying to speak in general terms and attract white people and white businesses from Amazon to whoever to come to South Fulton, and they haven't been coming. So we could just stop doing that, because that's not working. But what I really say is that if we improve the lives of 90% of the people in this city, then we're going to improve everyone's life, right? And so that and that the issues that are the issues, particularly in South Fulton, everything from us being zoned for warehouses and industrial districts and all of these things, that all of the detritus of capitalism that people don't want in their backyards, they zone on the south side of Fulton County and the south side of every city. Wherever Black people live, we get all of that zoning, right? And so that is not an accident or coincidence, right? That is a direct result of institutionalized racism. And so we have to make fighting institutionalized racism a part of the fabric of all of our city policies. And while I understand that this may not get you everything that you want and I want, because believe me, I want that $800,000 check. But this is a proof of concept that moves the needle further in the direction. This is about, this city is going to be developed, right? The question is, are the people that benefit from the development going to be the people that live here now? I tell people all the time on Old National, which is 99% Black. 10 years from now, there's going to be a Whole Foods on Old National. The question is, will you be here? And so that is what my mayoral campaign is about. It is about creating, because part of what I hear in this conversation is, I disagree with Keisha. I don't want us to get $800,000 and spend it all on brown liquor and Louis Vuitton. I want us to invest that wisely, right? And what does that look like? What could it look like if Black communities had the education and the resources to make wise investments with their money? And we can start that process now in our city, because we have $100 million of tax revenue, mostly from African Americans. How can we spend that $100 million to improve the lives of African Americans? When that $800,000 check comes, I hope that the city of South Fulton has created dozens of policy blueprints on how we can do that nationwide.
I would like.
Simeon has a question.
Oh, may I say something?
Well, Simeon has his hand up, and he's had it up for a while. So I'll get to him, and then Ray, and then you.
No, I think Ray, is that the old hand? Or I think that may be the old hand for Ray. I don't know.
Old hand? Okay. All right, go ahead, Simeon.
Well, one, I'm so happy that you're here, and I love the whole concept of your motto in relation to running the Black on purpose. I think that that's awesome, and I think it's something that's needed in all places when you're talking about a homogeneous Black community. You know, one of the things that I think we also have to be cautious about is, you know, when you deal with white socialism, it's all fun and games when everyone looks the same. But socialism on top of racism just changes how the inequality happens. And so, you know, when we talk about socialism and we talk about it in homogeneous communities, it seems perfect, and it always is. And I love a more socialized system post reparations. Because at that point in time, it wouldn't be guaranteed that we're at the bottom of a socialist system as well. And so I think we have to talk about it from the perspective of raising the group first, and then everything else will follow. And I think that that's a little bit different than what you may have to do in relation to South Fulton, because right now, everyone there is Black anyway. And so I want to make sure that we think about it from that distinction there. But nonetheless, I love what you're talking about, and I love what you're talking about doing for your city. The other part is on the marijuana side. I think it's important to separate set-asides from repair. So a marijuana tax would be a good set-aside to help people get in that business. But because of the financial constraints of that business, the fact that a new grower won't have product for close to a year, so that means they're going to have to take on more partners. All of a sudden, that business is no longer Black. So I think it's really we have to be really careful when we look at things like marijuana as being, oh, we want to make sure you're in that, we want to get you guys in that industry, so forth, so on, because most of the people who get in that industry will not survive. Most of those folks who are in now won't be in next year. They won't be in 5 years from now, which is just like what we saw when all these vape shops popped up all over Atlanta, all over everywhere. Everyone was waiting on medicinal marijuana to drop. So what did they do? They jumped in vape shops. They wanted to start there. Most of those didn't survive. And so when thinking about something like marijuana or a set-aside, I implore you to also think about it from the perspective of what's going to be needed to sustain it. And that model needs to be across every industry. It's not just the industry of marijuana. It has to be every single industry. And we need to be fighting for our success to become socialized across Black America versus the socialization of everything.
So, I'm going to respond to that and say, the first part is I'm going to say is that one of the problems that all of our businesses have, right, is access to capital. We know that we live in these red line communities. We know that we're still being redlined by banks. We have bank CEOs talking about he can't find smart Black people to be on their board of directors. So again, we have one. So, and the thing to know about the city of South Fulton, I went a little fast, but South Fulton is actually the same size as Atlanta. Atlanta is 100 square miles. South Fulton is about 89 square miles. So we are literally the size of Atlanta, but we only have 1/6 of the population, and it is majority Black. I see a couple of people. I'm going to share my screen again. I see a couple of people looking surprised. So I'm going to go to this. I'm going to go to this map so you can see it. And this is the South Fulton 101 page. But if you see this map, this is Atlanta, and all of this area is South Fulton. We go all the way to Clayton, the Clayton County line, the Fayette County line, and then we go all the way over to the Douglas County line and the Cobb County line along the Chattahoochee River. So District 4 is mostly farmland. We actually have a dozen Black farmers. We have a Black winery, and what we could do as a city, right, is that we could use our $100 million budget, go to our development authority and say, we are going to buy this land. No one individual has the money maybe to buy 40 or 50 acres of land, but if we pool our money together, which is what socialism is, and that's what Afro-socialism is, right? We pool our money together, we can buy this land, we can put it in a land trust for our citizens, or we can sell it, right? We can sell it at reasonable prices to, again, so we're prohibited by law. We can't say that we're going to sell it to only Black people, but what we can say is that we're going to sell it to South Fulton residents who happen to be Black people, right? And so like that's how we do that. That's how we create these opportunities. And so I'm not just talking about the tax from the sale. I'm actually talking about owning the land and owning the owning the businesses.
I like that idea. Okay, Ray, you have a question? Because I think I put your hand down, you put it back up.
Yes, and if you get in there, brother, we're gonna hold you to that land trust for the residents, because that's pretty powerful. And I got a little pushback for you saying you wouldn't be able to make sure that they're Black or American descendants of slavery if they were considered a protected class. Why wouldn't you be able to say, because of past wrongs, we will do this for American descendants of slavery who happen to be South Fulton residents?
So here's, I love this. I love political education. Here's a bit of political education. If that was passed,
that wasn't my question, but go ahead. I got another one for you. Go ahead.
If that were passed at the federal level and ADOS was a protected class, then we could begin talking about laws, which would probably get struck down currently by this Supreme Court that is being stacked by conservatives. One of the things that you have to consider when you're playing the long game is that you don't want to bring certain cases. When you have a court that is conservative, you don't want to even bring certain cases.
So we have a plan for that doesn't include the court. So move on.
Okay. Because what could happen is whatever plan you have, it could be challenged, it could be taken to the Supreme Court, and then it could be struck down. That is exactly what happened with the Dred Scott decision. Because of that timing, we had to wait another 100 years, right? Before.
And they've been voting against us already. I mean, if you really look at the Supreme Court, they struck down the key elements of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. That wasn't considered the packed court. That was done before. So I think from a court perspective, it's always against us, and it has historically been. And I don't believe even a candidate or who appoints those candidates would change that, because the root of that is anti-Black racism and white supremacy.
And so to go to Mr. James's question, right now we are trying to create laws that, if our city is 90% Black, I think that 90% of the contracts that we're spending this $100 million on Black people, right? Turns out we can't, even though we have this history. I've shown you these maps from Richmond, and we know all this history about redlining. We as a city right now are spending $50,000. We are required to do a disparity study to prove that we have been discriminated against in South Fulton, right? So like, these are the legal hoops that we have to jump through. We can't just say it. It is easier to create laws around local preference, right? That are on their face race neutral, right? Because we're just saying we have a preference for residents of this area. That only works if we keep this area 80 to 90% African American, which again and I have to be very careful, right? Because there are people that can take me to court for the things that I'm trying to do, right? It's not about saying that white people cannot live here. It is about saying that the people that live here now can stay here and can pass their land and their property on to their children, and that they will not lose it. We know that.
Which is the American dream.
Right. Very often in African American communities, our properties are lost in that transfer between generations. Big Mama has all of these tax breaks for senior homestead exemptions, but then when I inherit the land, I gotta pay $40,000 in taxes or I lose the property.
Right. Well, okay, so here's my question. what is your path to victory? You're going up against a legacy Bill. What's his name? Bill. What's the mayor's name?
Bill Edwards.
Bill Edwards. He's been a politician forever. What's your path to victory for beating the Boomer brother in South Fulton, and how many votes you think you're going to need?
So I think that I can win this with about 15,000 votes. There is historical data. So I actually, and I'm going to see if I can pull it up while I'm talking. But I actually, so I actually did this for a living. So let me just start there and say that I have won multiple state house, state senate, and city council races throughout the state of Georgia. I helped the youngest person ever be elected to the Athens Clarke County Commission, Mariah Parker. She's 24. She swore in on the autobiography of Malcolm X. I helped the first Muslim be elected to the state senate, Sheikh Rahman, in 2018. I flipped state house districts in 2018 down in Henry County. So this is literally what running races and winning races is what I did for a living before I became an elected official myself. In our inaugural election in 2017, so we just became a city, there isn't any more interest in local politics than at the formation of the city. There are 8 people on council, there are 7 city council people and 1 mayor. 73 people ran for those 8 seats in 2017. The mayor had, I believe, 10 challengers, 9 or 10 challengers. He did not win the race without a runoff. I am going to actually share this.
How many challengers do you have now?
Right now, I have no challengers. No one is announced. Most people are not going to announce until next year. Many people don't announce this far out. It's actually unheard of. It's not completely unheard of, but it's rare that people announce 400 days in advance, 14 months in advance of election. My election is not until November 2021. I did that for a couple of reasons. One is because I know I'm running against this incumbent, but it's also because I'm running with this radical idea that we should be Black on purpose, and I need time for those seeds to take root. So these are actually all the people that ran against the mayor in that first race. Of all of the 72 candidates, the mayor was the only person who had actually held elected office before. And still, against all of these challengers, he was not able to get 50% plus 1 of the vote. People were looking to vote for anyone else other than Bill Edwards. He has not, in my opinion, he's been a decent mayor. He has not been a great mayor. I think that there is a lot of, I'm just going to speak plainly and say that I think that there's a lot of corruption in City Hall. Right now, our city manager is leaving, along with our city clerk and our HR director. We will now have been through 2 city managers, 2 judges, 2 clerks in about 3.5 years. So we've had a lot of turnover in our cities. Long or shorter, he's just not a good mayor. And I think people are ready for a change. People are also very interested in this idea. If you talk to any resident of South Fulton, most of them will tell you there are people calling to buy my house every day, right? And so people see this wave of gentrification coming, and they're very concerned about it. And if we don't have a mayor and a government that is Black on purpose, we will become like Atlanta in 10 years and be 55 or less % African American. And many of us will be forced to move further and further out into the hinterlands of Atlanta, to Henry County and Clayton County and Stockbridge and all of these places.
Okay, so Paul, you had a question?
Yes, I did. I wanted to ask about Black-owned businesses because I grew up in a lot of rough neighborhoods where it was an all-Black neighborhood with no Black businesses. Also, I wanted to say something about, I'm not anti-immigration, but I see a lot of illegal immigration, and some of these illegals can seem how they can open up businesses. Like I've seen illegal immigrants running construction sites, and I'm like, how come there's no Black men working out there? But it's like they get all the business and job opportunities, but our people don't. You know, what do you have to say about that?
So, I can't solve immigration. That's a federal issue, but we can do what we are doing now with this disparity study, mandating that contracts be given out to African Americans or minorities, or more specifically, locally owned companies, and we are the locality. I grew up here on Old National, so just an aside, another reason this election is so important to me. When I was sworn in, I was the only member of this council that was born and raised here. I went to Love T. Nolan. I went to Mays for a second and graduated from Tri-Cities High School. So this is my hometown. I'm running to be the mayor of my hometown. And I have spent the past 3 years highlighting, we actually have dozens of Black-owned businesses. We are, and sometimes we do things, I talked about how is it that these cities that are run by Black people have allowed this income inequality gap, right, and this racial wealth gap to not only persist, but to be the most disastrous here in the city. And a lot of times it's because of the policies that we create. So right now, coming up on our city council meeting, and I discussed this in my upcoming newsletter, we are writing regulations that we're going to put all of these extra regulations on nightclubs or on restaurants that have dancing. That is a lot of the Black-owned businesses on Old National are restaurants or clubs, and there is a move in restaurateuring for restaurants that, they start off as restaurants in the daytime, and as you get later at night, like they become clubs. So we're putting all these extra regulations on that. You have to have like all of these police officers, you have to have cameras, you have to do all of these things in the name of public safety in the middle of a pandemic where these owners are also having to have reduced capacity and reduced revenues because of that capacity. And it threatens to drive a lot of these Black-owned businesses out of business. And what we have to do as part of being Black on purpose is thinking about how are the policies that we are passing, how are they impacting our Black businesses? How are they impacting our Black youth? Ms. Rankins probably remembers a couple of years ago, we had a councilwoman that wanted to pass an ordinance that would arrest parents for crimes that their children committed, right? And so like, how does that further us as a people, or how does that hinder us as a people? And really being able to look at a lot of these policies through that prism of Black empowerment is really the first step in creating better policies.
Okay, before you do that, Ishmael, I'm gonna ask his question. It's just a yes or a no. Would you support pushing an ordinance where South Fulton supports and advocates for a federal reparations plan for ADOS that at minimum closes the racial wealth gap at the mean, which is $800,000?
Yes, not only, yes, I want to say not only would I support it, but we've actually already passed, it is not an ordinance, it's a resolution, into things that we can do for exactly that. But if there is more specific language, because it doesn't necessarily use the ADOS language, if there's ADOS language, if you all have a model resolution, I would be happy to sponsor it.
I want to jump in real quick. Durham, North Carolina, their city council did recently pass a resolution calling for reparations for the descendants. It says here the reparations for the descendants of the enslaved people. But I'll put the link here and you can look at it. But I believe that's something you can maybe introduce right now. I mean, I don't, you have to be a mayor to do that. But
oh yeah, no, so the resolution that we wrote is based on that resolution. It was drafted by my colleague Mark Baker, and it is on our agenda for an upcoming meeting this year.
Yeah, but definitely anything having to do with reparations, especially on a federal level, would have to be specific to the American descendants of slavery in the United States. We're not against any other Black people getting reparations. In fact, we want them to get reparations, but they have to get them from the country that the government that ruled over them during that time. And we will support them. But in the United States, reparations is only for us.
Tony, your question?
Yeah, well, certain people sort of touched on some of this specific question. I know Paul talked about immigration as it relates to Black business, but I've been listening to you, and you used a couple of terms such as Black, African American. You said your foundation was in BLM. You also said Afro socialism. So I just wanted to know if you got my support or our support. Are you willing to make that distinction, that ethnic distinction, as it comes to policy, specifically for American descendants of slavery?
Absolutely.
Because as far as gentrification is not just white people moving in, it's also immigration as well. Like immigrants are coming in and also buying up our historically Black neighborhoods as well. So I just want to know if you're willing to make that distinction. So
I am, and the language. The language that again that I use is the language that I focus on is the language that is currently legally defensible in Georgia. And that is around people who are indigenous to an area, people who are local to an area. So we can create laws around local preference. So the people who have lived on Old National for 10 or 15 or 20 years, we can create preferences around that. I will be a passionate advocate for that as a policy, but as a policy and as an idea. But currently, it is important to understand that if we were to pass laws like that, they would not be legally defensible in Georgia.
All right, anybody else?
I just
If
want to
not,
make
we're going to wrap it up. I am starving to death. What, Larry?
I mean, I just want to, I love your campaign slogan, Black on Purpose, because one of the things that happens in Atlanta, it could be a Black politician or a room full of Black people, and they scared to say Black. They say minority,
People of color.
people of color. And I'm like, ain't nothing but Black people in here. So once you get into that territory talking about minorities and people in color, you're talking about everybody, but white men. So it comes now. It's almost like white men the minority, since they want to make everybody a minority, or they sometimes they just say women. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you specifying Black. We definitely want to work on writing up legislation at the federal, definitely at the federal level and the state level. We need to make sure that ADOS is a distinct ethnic group. Once we get that at the federal and the state level, then I think we can do some more stuff.
One of the what I'm going to ask for in closing is for you all to just continue. I know that you're already doing this, but continue having conversations with your neighbors. Raymond talked about this Black bourgeoisie that is in Atlanta, and that have really bought into this idea, a lot of these capitalist ideas that I believe are not essentially African, right? One of the things that I talk about, and I invite you all to visit khalidcares.com, you can see my entire mayoral announcement speech. But one of the things that I talk about in that speech is that if you just think about the Black family reunion, I use this as a metaphor. We all know, we've all been to a family reunion or a Thanksgiving or something. Everybody doesn't put in. Everybody doesn't put in the same amount. But when the reunion happens, everyone gets to eat. Everybody may not get a t-shirt if you didn't put in the money for it, but everyone gets to eat, and all of the children get something. And that is essentially African. That is essentially Black. And that is what we should be trying to do as a city. And it's important for us to have conversations with our neighbors, because there are a lot of African Americans in this city who, for capitalist reasons or post-traumatic slave disorder reasons, are not interested in helping out those people, right? Whoever those Black people are, but like those Black people have children, and all Black children are our children, and so and it is not so radical or dangerous for us to say that we deserve to have a city where we are a priority, because that is how I am being attacked and am going to continue being attacked throughout this campaign, that somehow being pro-Black is dangerous and illegal and is going to lead to financial ruin. And so we've got to push back on that in all of these private conversations that we have with our neighbors, to say, like, really take a look at Councilman Khalid's plans for the city. And after decades of trying it some other way, let's try putting ourselves first.
I hear what you're saying about the whole it's an African thing, but I'd like to push back and say it's our thing. We have family reunions, and when we get together, we all eat. I've never been to the continent of Africa, so I don't know what they do. I've dated an African. I kind of know what they do. Just that one country, though. I'm just saying that's our thing. So what you're talking about is ADOS. Like, that's us. We share. And the reason that people in your city don't necessarily want to help those people is because we're poor. And they understand that when white folks come in, they bring in the money. They bring in the Whole Foods, the lights on the street, street lights up, the street looks nice, and everything is nice, and that's what they want. That's
So
why
I've just got to push back a little bit against that. We are not poor. Our average income and our median income is actually about $10,000.
Sir, income and wealth are two different things. Income is what you bring in, like these boomers who have pensions that they can't pass down. That's not wealth. That's their income. They can't pass that down to the next generation. So we are poor. And that is the difference. That is the difference.
So we may be poor relative to white America, but I think that it's also important to understand the strengths that we have. The city of South Fulton has an average median income that is $10,000 higher than Atlanta. It's about $15,000 higher than Chicago. Many of the people that you associate with Atlanta, from Candy Burris, from the Real Housewives and 2 Chainz to John Lewis himself, are actually city of South Fulton residents. We have some of the wealthiest African Americans in America living in our city. We
That was
also
poor
have some
people.
of the poorest.
That's
But
poor
we
people.
have,
I'm
we
saying,
have,
on average,
but what I'm saying is that I hear what you're saying. But I think that it's also important that we don't always frame what is going on in our communities in terms of lack. This is amongst African American communities in America. This is one of the wealthiest African American communities in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. So
can't wait to have a study done so you could be proven wrong. Because let me help you understand. Your idea of wealth is not white folks' idea of wealth, and we are comparing ourselves to white people because they built this country. They're the majority. You're talking about one city. I'm talking about 40 million Black people.
right, and so I get that, and I get that.
Okay, wait, let me finish. I'm saying we are poor. You're saying the people in your city are saying, you know, we want to bring in Whole Foods. We want gentrification. And I'm telling you why. Because on average, Black people are poor. We don't have the wealth. We don't bring in Whole Foods. We don't bring in Microsoft. We don't bring in Mercedes-Benz. We don't bring in Amazon. And those companies don't come in. They'll bring in like the gravel company and tar or whatever else, the filth that messes up your environment, because we are a contagion to wealth, because we don't have it. So in all your numbers and all your data and all your charts and graphs, you need to get that. You should go to ADOS101.com and maybe like watch some videos with Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell so you can understand. And if you have not read The Color of Wealth, read that. If you haven't read How the Irish Became White, read that, because this will explain to you why they feel that way. It ain't got nothing to do with we all need to kumbaya this thing and be African. No, we're poor. We don't have the wealth. Income is not wealth.
And what I would like to offer in response to that is that I personally am not interested solely in us bringing in Whole Foods and Amazon. Number one, because those are not Black-owned companies. Number two is because those companies will continue, because of capitalism, they will go wherever they can get tax breaks. Economic studies have shown that companies that are built, that are developed in an area, tend to stay in that area, and they tend to be better corporate citizens in that area. So what I am more interested in doing is creating the next Amazon or creating the next Whole Foods with the resources that we have in our city. And I think that though I understand the focus of this organization to be specifically focused on African Americans, I think that it is important for us to connect to the wealth of the entire diaspora. So there is a portion of my platform that talks about making this city not just a Black Wall Street for America, but a center for capital traveling throughout the African diaspora, so that we're not looking to Jeff Bezos to create wealth in our city. We're looking for the Jeff Bezos of Nigeria to invest in our city and create wealth in our city and expand through the diaspora. And lastly, I will say, I understand the federal focus of this group for reparations for African descendants of slavery. I understand it, I get it, I support it. That is not something that I can accomplish in the mayor's office. I am here trying to figure out how to make life better for African descendants of slavery living in the city of South Fulton. And what can I do at the city government level to make that happen, while we are pushing for these other policy solutions at a national level.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of comments in the chat about what you just opened up a whole new can of worms, sir. Oh my gosh. Why'd you even go there? I'm trying to leave. I'm hungry. Oh my goodness. Like I'd really like to have you come back and discuss some more because like I said, you just opened up a whole new can of worms and I could go in some more. And I don't feel like you're getting my point. And it's okay. It's fine. I would just say to read, like I said, start with The Color of Wealth. And another one, what's that other one we read about? Black immigration. What's the name of that?
I think his point is saying those are good books to read, but I think he's more focused on local mayoral.
I understand, but he just talked about all of the continent. He went over Johannesburg, Lagos. He just took us around the globe. So I'm just saying, like, there's a book about Black immigration and how it affects us. So, but yeah, go on YouTube and watch some videos with Breaking Brown and Tone Talks, read the books. And again, I would love to have you back for a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Do you have the link,
Thank you.
the resolution you mentioned that was passed that was based on the North Carolina one? I'm Googling it. I'm not able to.
I put it in, if you scroll, are you in Zoom? Just scroll up some lines.
Yeah, you put the North Carolina one.
You're talking about the city of South Fulton one. What I will ask is, if you text the word black to 33777, you will be signed up for a specific newsletter that I send out about these issues. And when that resolution comes up for a vote, the text of that resolution will be there. And there'll also be a link for you all to submit public comments in support of that resolution.
And you said text black to who again?
I'm going to text the word black to 33777. I will put it in both the Zoom and YouTube chat.
Alrighty. All right, anybody else before we go? Because I'm hungry. I'm hangry. Good. All right, guys. So, Larry, you want to take us home?
I just want to thank everybody for joining us, taking time out of your day. The people who came for the first time, keep coming back. We definitely got big plans for next year, and we're going to get, we got plans for orientation for everyone. So just keep on coming back to the meetings every second and fourth Sunday. Khalid, Joanna, y'all got the links to the meeting, so y'all can pop in whenever y'all want. Every second or fourth Sunday, and so we, the next meeting we will see you at is on the 8th of November at 4 p.m. Have a good day.
All right, thank you all so much. South Fulton forever.
Peace, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.